bringing it all back together and accomplishing all we hope for in this morning offering program. Good morning, Pat. Ready for your chat?
Yes, today we are excited. John Adams Rizzo. He was born and raised in Jersey City, earned his JD from Fordham University, and has been practicing law in New Jersey, parishioner of Corpus Christi Parish in New Jersey. So, I mean, he's got tons of things to say about him, and I want to get to the article. Welcome, John. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thanks so much for having me on.
Oh, well, it's great to have you on, and I love this. This is actually kind of a chapter from one of your books, right? If I understand this.
Yes, that is
book?
correct, yes.
Yeah, which book did this one come from?
It's called Wisdom Learned at the Feet of the Lord.
Oh, what a great title. And this is great wisdom, because the name of the article that we're talking about that was published in Catholic Exchange is Thou Shall Not Hold Grudges. So I want to start, John, by asking you, why do you think people hold grudges?
Well, that's an interesting question. I guess in a way it's a way of bringing attention to themselves and almost feeling sorry for themselves, like they have to have some kind of an axe to grind, so they hold on to things that have happened to them.
And one of the things that you bring up, I think, is that, it is important to be able to forgive, to let go of these things. So tell us why that's so important, because people have a hard time with forgiveness.
They do, yes. I know. I hear so many times people saying, well, yes, I can't forgive. I can never forgive him. People who are good Catholics otherwise say, I can never forgive him for what he did to me. And it's just a burden that you hold on to, and it kind of infests your life, makes it harder to live a peaceful life if you're always thinking about things that people have done to hurt you in the past. It's something you have to get beyond that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so what kind of enlightenment, because obviously as a Christian, right, this is definitely a basic part of what we are to do. So what kind of enlightenment can you give people, either from Scripture or just from your study of the Christian doctrine, that would help us understand why this is so important to forgive?
Well, I think the main thing that I would say is it's important to forgive because Jesus tells us that it's important to forgive, and he repeats it over and over in the Gospels. I don't know how people miss that, that point. He says each time you stand up to pray, forgive anyone that you have a grudge against, not a grudge, transgression against. And just people don't seem to pay attention to that all too often. They just go over and hold on to grudges and never seem to catch on to the idea of forgiveness that Jesus imparts on us.
And we hear it over and over again, don't we? I mean, and you mentioned all of these in your article, right? I mean, the parable of the prodigal son, we say the Our Father, all these kinds of things. But I think one of the things that I want to kind of pick your brain a little bit on this, John, because it does go along with this article. But I kind of think that people don't understand forgiveness because they have to feel like they're forgiving. They have to feel that it is, I don't feel like forgiving them, or I just don't feel it's time to forgive. And so why is that not a good approach, to kind of think you have to feel forgiving?
I can't say I've ever thought about it in those terms. To me, it's more just a question of putting things behind you, and you don't have to actively forgive. You just have to not dwell on things. If Jesus, if you love your fellow man, you're not going to dwell on things that they've done in the past that might have hurt you. It's just something that it happened. You move on, and Jesus says to forgive. And if we want to be forgiven by the Father, then we must forgive those who have hurt us.
So, do you think that how do you kind of reconcile that idea of forgiving and forgetting? I mean, do those two go together, or is it okay not to forget that you've been wronged and still forgive? Is that possible?
Well, it is possible. I think there are a lot of people who you don't forget when someone has done you wrong, but the question is, do you let it ruin your life? Do you let it ruin your relationships, or do you just chalk it up to something that someone did and forgive them because we're all human and we all make mistakes? I find, myself that I have I don't have the greatest memory, so it's easier for me to forgive people because I don't even remember what they did to me, But I think it's important not to dwell on things, and I think that's where people get into trouble. They just brood over things that happened, and why? Why do you bother doing that? Does it make you feel good to be upset at someone? I think for some people it actually does. It's like a comforting feeling. Oh, I don't like that person. I can't stand him. I'll never forgive him for that. And unfortunately, if you listen to Jesus, that's not the way to go.
Exactly. And I think the idea of forgiveness, certainly, you're right. I think people just they hang on to these things, and I think that's why we've really got to look at that whole idea of will, right? I mean, that our will, we have to will forgiveness and ask God to help us with that. And I think one of the things that brought it home even clearer to me is, did you see Charlie Kirk's wife Erica when she at the memorial service forgave the killer of her husband? Did you see that?
Yes, I saw that. Yes.
What'd you think?
And well, that's a very big step, and it's very, laudable that she would so soon after that event to have that. But that's if you have forgiveness in your heart, then that's the way you will react. I know. I also read then about Tim Allen forgiving someone who killed his father. I don't know the story specifically, but he said someone murdered his father 60 years ago, and he just
it was a drunk driving accident. Yeah.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
And because of whatever Kirk said, he forgave that person. It just that's great. But 60 years is a long time to hold on to something, So it's better to forgive immediately, not to wait that long, I would say.
Yeah. And I think he's a great example of what happens to a person's life when you hold on to it, because he ended up in jail. He was into drugs, all that kind of stuff, because he couldn't let go of it. And I think, why do you think Christ tells us forgiveness is so important for us as human beings?
Well, I think he knows what's best for us. In so many cases where the things that Jesus teaches us, that we might feel somehow that they're onerous, which they're really not. But I think most of them are there to help us. He knows if you hold on to things, if you don't forgive people, it's going to become a problem in your life. It's going to weigh you down. It's going to hurt you more than it hurts the person that you're not forgiving.
Boy, isn't that the truth? And of course, you end your article or this chapter with one of the best things, and that is Christ being the example of forgiveness for us, right? And forgiving them from the cross. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, John, so much for being with us today. I really appreciate it.
I thank you for having me on.
And thanks for such a great article. This really was very helpful. And have a great week ahead, okay?
Thank you very much, Pat. Okay.
Bye-bye.